Pastoralism is a way of life that is concerned with rearing livestock. It is found in many variations throughout the world, from the Central Asian plains to the high ends and from the Arctic to sub-Saharan Africa. Although pastoral communities may differ in the environments they inhabit, the types of animals they raise, as well as cultural aspects, they have one thing they all have in common: the need to look after their animals and the careful management of natural resources on which they depend. Pastoralist peoples have practiced their livelihoods for many centuries, but today they have to adapt to rapidly changing economic, political, and environmental circumstances. Some communities continue to practice nomadic pastoral systems, while others adopt sedentary or ranch pastoral systems. Pastoralism is practiced widely in Kenya, mainly in the northern dryland regions and the Rift Valley plains by Nilotic and Cushitic peoples. Although pastoralism is often considered backwards, recent studies have shown that pastoralism is an economically viable and environmentally sustainable production system for many of the drylands of Kenya. In Kenya, over 60% of the national livestock herd is held by pastoralists and producing 10% of its gross domestic product.
Pastoralism is a form of production system in the Asas practiced by the livestock keepers there, and it's a very important source of livelihood. They depend almost solely on livestock keeping. The national livestock population in Kenya is about 13 million, of which 9 million are in the Asas. These are arid and semi-arid areas of Kenya. And livestock keeping and livestock production in Kenya contributes 10% of GDP. And of these, 50%, it contributes 50% in the agricultural sector. The rest is from the crop production.
The Masai community is one of Kenya's semi-nomadic pastoralist communities. The Masai people are widely known for their distinctive customs, colorful jewelry and costumes, and their cattle. Despite the introduction of modern education and foreign cultural influences, the Masai people have maintained their traditional way of life. Their culture has become an important part of the Kenyan identity and of Kenya's image abroad. The Masai people are part of a larger nomadic Nilotic pastoralist community that migrated southwards from the north of Lake Turkana and settled in the present-day Kenya and Tanzania around 15th century. In Kenya, they number 840,000 according to 2009 census. Masai pastoralism is a success story of balancing people's needs with the need for conservation of the environment. International organizations such as the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO, have realized that the pastoral livelihood system should be embraced as a viable response to climate change because of its ability to manage climatic variations in dry areas sustainably.
The Maasai depend a lot on resources obtained from the immediate environment for their livelihood, for food, for medicine, and so on. And therefore, their knowledge about the environment and what happens, the changes which take place in the environment on month-to-month basis, or even on day-to-day, week-to-week basis, their knowledge is really, really deep. The Maasai use resources around to predict the seasons. They use plants and animals. They use flowering times of certain plants to predict the coming of the rains, for example. They use migration of animals, like wildebeests, to know what time of the season or what time of the year their rain. They also use migrating bees, for example, and even butterflies, the behavior of butterflies, to know what time of the year they are in. But now for them to predict accurately, there are some indicator plants and indicator animals which the Maasai use to know when they are expecting something like rain or drought or cold season.
The Maasai community has developed and maintained a highly flexible and sustainable mobile livestock keeping system, moving herds and people in harmony with nature's patterns. Their customary institutions for collectively managing livestock, pastures, water and forests, combined with traditional knowledge, have created and maintained one of Africa's most iconic landscapes teeming with wildlife. It is on this basis that Masai Pastoralism was recognized by Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, the UN agency which aims to achieve food security for all, as a globally important agricultural heritage system, or GIAS. Masai pastoralism in Kenya and Tanzania was selected for its wise use of natural resources, its sustainable interaction and coexistence with wildlife, and its special traditional knowledge. Passed on from generation to generation, the Maasai have accumulated an intimate knowledge of their environments and of sustainable use of plants for medicinal and veterinary purposes. In 2002, FAO initiated the Globally Important Agricultural Heritage Systems, or GIAS initiative. The GIAS initiative aims to encourage governments worldwide to recognize and protect traditional agricultural systems which provide extraordinary contributions to environmental management and biodiversity, as well as the livelihoods and food security of local communities. It assists governments and communities to maintain such systems. Rather than freezing them in time, it assists communities to adapt their agricultural systems to changing times while keeping the best of their time-tested cultural practices. With the financial support of the government of Germany, the government of Kenya started a partnership with FAO in 2008 to protect and promote Masai pastoralism in southern Kenya. The Masai people of Kenya and Tanzania live under a communal land management system. This system is adapted to the semi-arid environment and allows them to utilize resources in a sustainable manner when and where they are available. Traditionally, each Maasai clan managed its own territory, maintaining pastures through customary traditions and regulations. This is practiced today, though the role of the warriors or Moran, tasked with protecting the community's natural resources and livestock, has diminished with the introduction of the Western system of education, confining the youth for the better part of their young lives. Despite the introduction of new land tenure systems, traditional communal resource management systems continue to ensure the sustainable management of pastures. These are the Old Onyonyokie and Olkeri areas of Kajiado district in southern Kenya, selected by the government of Kenya together with Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, as the main site under the GS initiative. The two group ranches are a microcosm of Maasai culture with its use of indigenous knowledge and sustainable management of their environment. The site is highly representative of a functioning Maasai pastoral system, representing nearly all of its special features. The group ranches have a total surface area of 93,148 hectares with an estimated 16,000 cattle and 19,000 sheep and goats.
Some of the project interventions that we have initiated include long-term land use and management plan development for the area. This will involve a characterization of the site with a view to sustainably managing the resources within the area for improved livelihoods. We are also improving rangeland management practices and livestock production. For instance, in the year 2008-2009, the drought decimated 70% of the livestock, and to mitigate this, we have done a restocking. We've selected 150 destitute families, and we've been able to restock that. In addition to that is that we are improving water facilities for the livestock to ensure that we align the grazing cycles, that is the traditional grazing cycles, with the availability of water to ensure that certain areas are not overgrazed. We are also documenting the heritage agricultural practices. As you may know, Masai Pastoralism has been supported through the years by their rich traditional indigenous knowledge systems, which is currently under threat. And we are documenting this with a view of promoting it and educating the people on the importance of dynamically conserving some of these heritage resources. We are also developing niche markets in tourism. We want people to visit the project area and appreciate some of the resources that we have within the project area. Lastly is that we are mainstreaming GEA's goals in line with the national policies. We have identified certain areas in the heritage sector, areas in agriculture, areas in livestock, and we hope that through the implementation of all these intervention areas, we hope to improve the livelihoods of the people in that area and ensure that food security is assured.
The indigenous knowledge of the Masai manifests itself in every aspect of their daily lives, in deciding on which pastures to use and which to leave alone, in animal and human health, arts and crafts, cuisine and cultural events. Masai culture provides for every aspect of a person's life, even without access to modern education, services, or technologies. Masai people have coexisted with the flora and fauna in their natural habitat for over 500 years. Their traditional way of life is not a threat, as was often assumed, but is finely adapted to the environment. Although livestock and wildlife compete to a degree over pastures and water, wildlife generally benefits from the Maasai's careful management of their shared habitats. The Maasai's coexistence with nature is quite remarkable. They live adjacent to wild animals without harming them or being harmed by them. Not many incidences of predators attacking livestock are reported, nor do the Maasai kill wildlife for food. With many wild herbivores around them, predators tend to attack mostly wildlife. Only in exceptional circumstances, when predators such as lions attack livestock or people, will the Maasai warriors be tasked to kill these. The Maasai are also aware that the presence of predators provides a natural defense, shielding them from livestock raiders and other intruders. Their management of grazing patterns and pastures fits well with wildlife cohabitation. Wildlife benefits from grazing by livestock, for it encourages the regrowth of pastures and keeps unwanted plants at bay. It also benefits from controlled burning, which removes unwanted plants and controls ticks, sesaflies, and other animal diseases. To avoid human and livestock conflict with the wildlife, the livestock is taken to drink water at midday, while the wildlife is given a chance to drink in the early morning and late evening. The grazing pattern is aligned with wildlife migration, ensuring that wildlife diseases are not passed on to the livestock. The Maasai may not have access to modern inputs to sustain their livestock during the dry season, but from age-old traditions, they overcome this by applying grazing in seasonal cycles, reserving areas for dry spells. The Karmai area of Oldonyonyokie Group Ranch is one of the dry season grazing areas. No settlement is allowed in this precious area except in times of extreme drought, when some settlement is allowed at the borders. Here, you find the temporary settlements which the Maasai build during one of the dry spells.
Ora bainana waldegara balor Masai lore yagelang guru gerra na ishunyitini nemero no ni gela jingine uja mure ne akunro mingana an soje na nigidi yagitia ni umisa kewoni no ora ba bebo nulu baye nya bali gwela lo beiro ne shugabu ne raage ro soja na duona rejo nenda nyamal nkara nono kutitik a hinda nyamal ngishu amure niro na Masai ini dua kapon lo guara kenang, nelo dua kemai nang, wangga lo dua kanya mali, akhirnya ni kene marah agin duri. Ni aku rapor Masai, nah kit duri irfaya ni korongan ni, poito mingan orangnya ning anak dia gitu ya.
Another notable sustainable use of the environment around Oldonyonyokie and Olkeri is the use of indigenous forests and grazing sites. You will find undisturbed natural forests with various types of indigenous plant species. Since the Maasai traditionally derived their human medicine and veterinary medicine from indigenous plants, you might expect a depletion of these plant species. But this is not the case. Medicinal plants are plentiful in this area. This is because the Maasai enforce strict cultural rules on the harvesting of wood and medicinal plants. Ceremonies and other cultural events in Maasai culture imbue people with respect for and understanding of their environment. They also serve to convey people's roles in society and respect for each other. In this way, ceremonies and ceremonial sites play a key role in Masai pastoralism. In Oldonyonyokie and Olkeri, ceremonial sites have been carefully maintained. Emugur was a meat feasting site last used by the Iltareto age group in 1911. It is set naturally in a cave next to a small natural basin that historically collected water during the rainy season. A picture of a bow is engraved in the rock, a trace of a popular pastime for the Maasai warriors. Plants play an important role in the life of the Maasai. The Emugur site is very rich in ethno-medicinal and ethno-veterinary plant species. The orchishom shrub is given to cows as a milk supplement when the milk is scarce during the dry season. The orchishom milk supplement is prepared by boiling its stem. Another shrub found in Emugur cultural site is the ormugutan, scientifically known as Albizia arthemetica. Its root is boiled and mixed with soup. Used this way, it is an effective deworming medicine for humans. Ormugutan twigs are also used to make toothbrushes by cutting and chewing one end of the stick until it softens like a brush. Olchani lorpukel, a shrub used as human medicine. Its root and stem are burnt and inhaled for treatment of colds. It can also be added to tea and drunk for the same treatment purposes. Knowledge on how to dispense traditional medicine still abounds, passed from generation to generation. This middle-aged man is looking for orpopongi, known scientifically as Euphorbia candelabrum, a species whose brew is used to treat pneumonia in humans and livestock infections. He knows precisely how to identify, dispense, and administer the medicine to livestock and humans, part of a knowledge system based on an intimate knowledge of nature. This Orpur site is located within the Kora forest, situated in a flat expanse of grassy plains which was used as pasture during the dry season and for the same ceremonial purpose as the Emugur site. The Orpur ceremony serves to create lifelong bonds among young men, while elders provide instructions on social norms and the management of livestock and pastures. The scattered bones of domestic animals are evidence of this meat-feasting event. This site is also rich in indigenous plant species that the inhabitants use for cultural ceremonies. Teun is a Masai women's ceremonial site. You can hardly traverse Masai land without an encounter with a cultural ceremony. For them to be able to cope with challenges, they sometimes use sacred sites to seek divine intervention. This is a Mayan Undamonok ceremony, a women's blessing ceremony performed only in special circumstances. It was last performed around 1965. These women pray for the end of the prolonged drought occurring while this was filmed, for the blessing of having children, and for the protection from epidemics and other calamities. So serious is the ceremony that women who have conceived and those who are suckling are not allowed to participate, as they are believed to cause curse. The women will perform the prayer as they move around the sacred Oreteti tree 8 times, while the leader of the women's group sprinkles a mixture of milk and honey on the leaves of the tree. She was chosen to perform this sacred role because she is considered to be without blemish in the community. A branch of the Oreteti tree is then cut and taken to a male ceremonial leader, also considered to be without blemish. He cuts the branch into smaller twigs with the help of other elders and spreads them in the homestead as a blessing. The bark is used to make bracelets and worn by the women to carry the blessing with them. Today, ethno-veterinary and ethno-medicinal plant products are also exchanged and sold at local markets. Ground or mogutan powder for treating diarrhea and deworming. Ground or cocola powder for treating joint and back aches. Ground or conil powder for urine purification. Ground or chanilor pukel powder for treating flu and colds. Ground or chani onyokie for treating diarrhea. Ground and chani eukusero for treating stomach pains. While ethno-medicinal and ethno-veterinary plant uses form the bulk of sustainable use of plant species in Masai land, many other uses of plants can be found. This is a manyata ongusidin, a temporary manyata built for one of the many Maasai ceremonies performed in Olkeri. Preparations are in high gear for Olngesher ceremony, the final initiation ceremony performed for men to graduate to elderhood. The older core tree is used for preparation of a traditional drink for special ceremonies. It is mixed with honey, sugar, and other plants and then fermented. Apart from ceremonies, traditional knowledge is passed from generation to generation through continuous interaction between elders and youth. It is the responsibility of the elders to educate their juniors and mold these young people into responsible elders. Once they are elders themselves, they will be capable of maintaining their families, their animals, their lands, and their culture. This way, the agricultural heritage system of the Maasai is sustained for the coming generations. Women are responsible for domestic chores, cooking, taking care of children, gathering wood and water, ensuring that livestock is enclosed in the kraal, calves and lambs are suckled, cows, sheep and goats are milked. They also build and own their own houses. The elders' roles are closely observed by the young, for them to learn the skills necessary for survival. Drawing blood from a live cow without killing it is an important skill. Fresh blood is part of diet of the Maasai. In this way, livestock does not have to be killed for them to provide a valuable source of nutrition. The Oldonyonyokie and Olkeri Maasai communities of today still maintain their valuable pastoralist system and the cultural practices that sustain it. The country, and indeed the world, stands much to gain from learning from their pastoralist heritage and other traditional forms of agriculture. It may help us cope with the many environmental and development challenges we face. These communities and other communities like them deserve our recognition and support in maintaining the best of their agricultural ways and in meeting the aspirations of their own development. The government of Kenya, FAO, and other partners have come together to make this happen. However, much remains to be done. The policies, resources, and energies of many others need to be mobilized in order to support the agricultural heritage systems of Kenya for the sake of so many generations to come.